Hey guys, it's me Jake from JakeMan21642, and today I've got an update video for you guys of a car that I realized has not been on my channel in a very long time. This is my mom's 2012 Volvo S60 T5. This is a front-wheel drive T5, and like I said, we've had this car for about 5 years, and it has not been on my channel for almost 4.5, I'd say. So that alone should tell you how the ownership experience has been with this car. So a little bit of backstory. My parents were pretty diehard Volkswagen. I'm sure those of you that have followed the channel for a long time remember that. We've had a 71 Beetle, a 99 Passat, a 07 Rabbit, which was her car before this. That, for the rest of the world as well, is just a Mark V Golf. My dad had a Mark V Jetta, and then we also had a 2011 Tiguan. And to put it nicely, none of those cars, other than, of course, the 71 Beetle was to be expected for a car that old. Otherwise, none of those cars treated us very well. That being said, my parents were still brand loyal to Volkswagen, so I was really surprised at the time I was actually able to get my mom into this car. Especially because my parents have never been a fan of luxury cars. Yes, they do consider a 12-year-old Volvo a luxury car. At the time, I had my 2012 S60. For a while, my mom and I actually had the same car. She had a T5, I had a T6. But this was traded in when I was working at Volvo. The Rabbit was aging. It was having some issues. Had about 120,000 miles. And was still on the original clutch that I learned to drive stick on and had probably taught about 5 people to drive stick on. So I was kind of in the early stages of trying to find another car for her. This got traded in, and it was just such a good deal and in such good shape that everything worked out. We got a great deal on this car at the time. In 2019, we paid, I think, around $8,000 out the door for this car. She also did have a 4-year service contract on it, which we should have canceled. We never had to use once. But this car, it was a local trade-in. I actually have a video way back on my channel from when it came in off lease and was for sale CPO when the people before us had it. So if you really want to go through my channel, go back and find that. But this was a local trade-in. It was a 3-year lease originally. People before us bought it certified. They had owned, I think the XC90 they traded this one was like their 12th or 13th Volvo. This car, right before we bought it, it did get pretty much a full engine rebuild. These do have oil consumption problems. You can keep adding oil and they'll keep going. These are rock solid engines, but this one was under warranty. It was burning about a quart between changes, and they were documenting it, servicing it at the dealer. Volvo paid for an engine rebuild. It was done at 61,000 miles. I have all the receipts, and we got it at 63. This thing got a full teardown down to the pistons, new head gasket, piston rings, of course, timing belt, all of that. So yes, that I think has contributed to the reliability of this as well. But outside you can see this thing is held up fairly good cosmetic-wise. It is street parked, so of course has some of the things that come along with that, a little bit of curb rash. The bumpers, the fronts actually survived pretty well. When my mom was working before she retired, she did drive on 95 a lot, and I think that contributed to a lot of these rock chips that have peppered the front end. This also happened, literally right after she got it. And the windshield too has taken a few hits because this car as well spent a lot of time on 95 going back and forth between North Carolina, going to visit family. Another thing too, on the outside, you can tell that this car definitely belonged to old people before us. It's got this now very faded pinstripe. They did also add this body side molding and then these door edge guards. My mom left them on because she loves the car. She wants to keep it nice. When she got it, she was still working retail before she retired. So the car spent a lot of time in parking lots, and she just wanted to protect it as much as possible. I also did detail it yesterday, but as you can see, the weather's been a little up and down. It did rain, and it was parked under a tree, so it doesn't look as good as it could. Around the rear, you can see dual exhaust. I've always loved that design on these S60s. This car as well has no business sounding as good as it does. Like I said, it is street parked, so it does have a few little parking love marks on it. This back bumper has already been repainted a few times as well. But still, I mean, this angle right here, it's my favorite angle of these cars. Like I said, these were new at the time I worked at Volvo. These were coming in off 2-3 year leases right when I started working there full time. So I really just have a soft spot for them, especially too because I owned one and mine was such a good car. So I'll go ahead and talk about the few things this car actually has needed in our ownership, which has not been much. Like I said, she got it with 63,000 miles. It's got around 90,000 now. We did have one of the parking sensors replaced. Did have a parking sensor fault. All it ended up being was a dead sensor. Has gotten a set of tires, which more on those in a second. And then I did replace the rear brake pads on it. Probably also need to go ahead and do rotors as well. They were okay at the time I replaced them. Now you can kind of tell it needs rotors. But other than that, this thing has just needed oil changes and standard maintenance. There really has not been anything unexpected with the car. The wheel bearing did get pretty loud. She drove it for a while too because we thought it was tires at first because the Michelin, I think they were the Premier All Seasons that came on it, did what those do. They wore out and got pretty noisy pretty fast. So replaced those first, and then the noise kind of came back, and I think it ended up being the front passenger wheel bearing. But like I said, this car is riding on a new set of tires. This is a brand new set of Michelin Cross Climate 2s. These, especially for a front-wheel drive sedan, these are my favorite tires on the market right now. They look weird. They ride so good. Driving around right now, I mean, they grip like summer tires. This car, I honestly forget it is front-wheel drive when I drive it. And I drove them a little bit in the snow. They were absolutely awesome. And on this car, I think they suit its character very well. Outside otherwise, this one being a fairly standard T5, you do have the halogen headlights. You get the headlight washers on it though, which are very nice. Your LEDs up front, which I kind of forgot about those. They do give these cars a unique front end. This is the pre-refresh as well, which I definitely like the styling more. You can see this one being a Premier package, does have the sunroof. Radio antenna right there. This one does have navigation as well. Another thing I did do to the car for her is I did get the windows tinted just like her last car. So we've got 35 on the side windows and then 20 on the back, which is very nice, especially being black on black. Helps at this time of the year. But we'll go ahead, I guess, get inside, start it up. Does have your standard Volvo key fob from this era. This one does not have smart keep, so you do actually have to unlock from the key fob. Another thing this one is missing is the blind spot monitoring from the time. Fine with me and fine with her. That's kind of one of those things like the parking sensors that definitely would have broken by now. But inside you can see for a black Volvo interior with 90,000 miles, this one is actually holding up in really good shape. I mean, you can tell there's spots. My parents have also never had a car with leather seats, so they don't exactly maintain these. Same goes for this side. Holding up pretty good, but the bolster, especially my dad being a bigger guy, they've made some marks getting in and out. But otherwise, this car, it's definitely held up a lot better than any of the Volkswagens we've had. Foot on the brake, and just insert the key up here. You can hear that 5-cylinder come to life. And then once you've started the car, you can remove the key, which that's actually what I usually end up doing is I'll just hold it enough and hit the button so it starts. This did have the proximity package. You can get in just like any other car, key in your pocket and hit the button to start. Did want to mention as well just how much I love this key fob. It is so well made. These things don't eat key batteries like a lot of other stuff from this era. Very nice and solid. I mean, you can see 90,000 miles. This is the main key. Buttons are barely crushed. You have the cool button as well. Press this and it will light up the car. I actually was trying to find my dad's S60 in a parking deck last week, and that really came in handy. Trunk release, press and hold that. It will pop the trunk, which Not power, but it still will release it, and then your panic button. Just for the sake of the video, though, I'm going to just leave the key in the slot. Inside of this car, I mean, I really don't think I feel more at home in anything else. Even though it's been 3 years since I sold mine, I've spent so much time in this platform, and I'll say it, this is really when Volvo had it right. Especially these early build ones compared to like 14 and 15 when these kind of got refreshed. Volvo was trying so hard. I mean, this was at the same time when they were running the campaign where if you leased one of these and didn't like it, they would make your first payment on, I think it was a BMW or an Audi. So they were really trying to step up their presence in the luxury market at this time. And these early build ones, they're just a little bit tighter. It feels like there's a little more sound deadening. I mean, everything is such a nice material. Even where it doesn't matter, like down here at the bottom of the door is padded. Nothing creaks, nothing rattles. Like I said, Volvo leather usually does not age well. You'd think the lighter colors, but it's actually the darker colors. It seems like the sun destroys them. These have held up great, and these, especially compared to my dad's XC60, even my parents have noticed, this leather has a much softer and nicer grain to it. I mean, I know I'm definitely biased, but this interior is just such a great place to be. And especially for me, like I said, I just have spent so much time in these. I really feel at home. But inside, like I said, it's all padded material on the door. This does have the aluminum trim around here. Same leather as the seats on the door. And again, my parents are pretty hard on cars. And like even the door panels, the leather's in great shape. My mom's rings have kind of caught this in a few places. Honestly, she hasn't torn this up as bad as most people do. It's the typical European kind of rubberized finish that will scrape off to shiny plastic before it, but it's held up great. It's definitely, again, held up better than the Volkswagens have. Over here, headlight controls. They are automatic. It's a weird version of automatic where you basically just leave them on all the time. Confused the hell out of my mom, and I can see why they changed this design in 13. Fuel cap, trunk release, gauge dimmer, and then your rear fog light. This one does not have the front fog lights. It's pretty rare on the US ones. Electronic parking brake down there. Nice as well with the electronic brake in these. When you have your seatbelt on and you put it in drive, just tap the gas and it will take off. Down below, you can see I did add the OEM all-weathers to it. If you have one of these cars or any of this era Volvo, get these. They're so much nicer than WeatherTechs. They fit the car so much better. They're pretty much the same price, if not cheaper. You even have the nice little cloth part where your feet go, which has worn a little bit, but they've held up great. I also, from my T6, I did steal the sport pedals out of it. And up top, you can see the dash, same rubberized material as the doors. And again, this car's street parked and in the sun, and it's holding up great. It's not warping. It's really in great shape. Again, they don't armor all it. They don't even necessarily clean it. This car just had a layer of dust on everything inside when I took it the other day. This gauge cluster, these are some of my favorite gauges of all time. They're just such a clean, elegant cluster. At night, they look so good, especially with the rest of this interior. This being an early one, it has the same 90s green as my 240, which I love. It's definitely a throwback. But you have the floating needles as well, and your displays in the middle. Of course, not being digital. They're very precise, and they just look so cool. But you can see this one has just under 91,000 miles on it. You do have your multifunction display there, which this one averages around 23, 24. Of course, I've been having fun with it, and it's also been idling a lot while I've been detailing it and shooting videos with it, so that has dropped down in the time I've had it. But nice, I mean, for 2012, a nice amount of functions on there, and I will take this any day over the screen that replaced these later on in this model. You can see on the wheel, leather wrapped. Again, the leather's in great shape. I just cleaned it yesterday with some interior cleaner, and it really removed a lot of the shininess. It feels great in your hand. On the back of the wheel, typical of these, the leather has become a little loose. And then up here, this chrome piece is peeling. These you can actually buy on FCP Euro. Only reason I haven't replaced it is I don't feel like dealing with the airbag, but I'll get this done. You can see the people before us cared enough that when this Volvo logo fell off, like they all do, that they actually replaced it with one of the nice domed ones that these hold up a lot better. These are actually aftermarket, and I don't even know if you can get these anymore. I think the guy that made them got sued. But on the wheel, your cruise controls, your audio system controls over here. One thing I definitely miss in this car is the fact that I can scroll through radio stations from the steering wheel. I always loved that in my S60, and I went right back to using that in this car. It's a nice touch, and my Mercedes does not do that. But in the middle, this system, pretty standard for 2012. And it still works surprisingly well. It might not be the fastest thing or the best looking thing out there, but it just works. My parents are boomers when it comes to technology. They've had 2 vehicles with this system for years now and have barely had any questions for me. I'm not going to go on a tangent because I know I say it in every video of this platform, but it just works like a radio. It's so easy. Volume, and then your controls for navigating around right here. Preset stations, this can also be a dial pad when you're making phone calls. It looks overwhelming, and everyone complained about this system when it was new. I think this is one of the easiest things to use, and it beats everything else today, and especially the touchscreen that replaced it. All of this, once you live with one of these long enough, you can do anything you want without having to actually take your eyes off the road. And honestly, pretty much everything can be done from the steering wheel controls in this car as well. Your My Car, you have a bunch of different settings in there. This one as well actually is equipped with navigation, which I always forget about. Mine did not have nav, but this does. I hope my parents know better than to use it, because I have no idea when the last time this thing received an update was, but I'm sure it would not be very reliable if you tried to use it today. Audio system, satellite radio, AM, FM, of course, Bluetooth, auxiliary in, and this is just the standard audio system from the time, and it sounds great in this car. And I think a lot of that has to do with just how well these Volvos are made. I think they're honestly just so heavy and insulated so well, it really helps you get the best out of these speakers. These did have, not 2012, I believe it was still the Dyna Audio. I know like 14 or 15 was when they started the Harman Kardon. These had a higher end system that basically the only difference was it gave you a center channel. I was never that impressed by them. They're a little bit louder, but like all of the different sound modes and effects you can add on them, they make it sound really tinny. They don't honestly sound that much better than this does. If you're in the market for one of these and you're considering that a must-have, give one of these a chance. It's really not that much of a difference. Harman Kardon and the newer models, that's different. Those are really good. But this audio system we're still very happy with. Both of my parents are audiophiles just like I am, and they love this. I mean, my mom, of course, is still very happy to have a car with a CD player. As you can see by both door panels, my parents still love their CDs. They would not buy a car without a CD player. Around here, this does have the aluminum trim in the middle as well, which is aging very well in this one. I think this has taken enough hits or had enough stuff spilled on it. It's a little bubbled up right there, but otherwise it's in great shape. Dual zone climate control, heated seats for the driver and passenger. One of my favorite Volvo features. That button will drop your rear headrest down, which actually give you great visibility in these cars. You really don't even need blind spot monitoring. Your shifter for the 6-speed auto right here. This is an Eisen transmission. You do have sport mode and manual mode as well. And like I said, this one doesn't have a backup camera, but it actually does have the parking sensors, which work pretty well. They make it pretty easy to parallel park, considering how high the belt line is. I also love in reverse, if you hit the mirror buttons, they will tilt down to actually help you see curbs, which is a very nice feature. Parking sensors on and off there as well. In the middle, 2 cup holders. You can see kind of a deep one and a more shallow one. They fit the big boy size Stanley fine. Cover, which we'll go over those. I need to get in mine, I had some silver trim pieces I bought online that matched this, that covered up this part. Because these you can tell from coffee cups and keys and things banging in and out. they've taken a little bit of a beating. Armrest in the middle, not crushed, cover's not messed up, anything like that. I mean, just everything in here's held up very well. USB auxiliary in there. Like I said, the seats in this car, I honestly miss. My Mercedes has great seats. My 4Runner as well has fantastic seats, but just nothing beats a Volvo seat. I've had a long week at work too, and getting in this car, these fit me like a glove. I mean, you can adjust them very well. Of course, driver and passenger are full power. I believe the passenger side as well, that must have been a new thing on the newer ones, but you can get these with passenger seat memory. Still full power, but they just are so comfortable. I love this leather, the graining as well on it. I mean, like I said, Volvo really had it right at this body style. We'll go ahead though, step out. I'll show you guys the rest of the car really quick. I apologize at how long this video has ended up being, but this car also has not been on the channel for almost 5 years, like I said. One thing too I forgot to mention inside, which I loved in mine, this does have rain sensing wipers, which actually work very well for rain sensing wipers from 2012. And I think that's another one of the things like auto climate, where my mom's never had it in a car and never uses it. But we'll step out. Now, one thing about these are a compact sedan, and it's definitely one thing I don't miss from mine and why I had no problem going from mine to a two-door. The back seat in these cars, not great. I'll show you guys. I'm 6'2". That seat's where I would sit. And getting back here, I mean, my knees are in it. It's still a comfortable back seat. There is a little bit of a cutout behind the sunroof, so I have headroom. Typical Volvo, you have your vents and the pillars, which is such a nice design, but this definitely isn't a place I'd want to go on a long road trip. You can see passenger side, a little bit more room, but still just, it's a tight back seat. This is not exactly a people hauler. Your soft touch, your aluminum, and the leather on the door. I mean, it is soft touch all the way around. And my S60, I actually tore the door panel up by putting a mini fridge in the back seat. And then also too, like I said, the headrests do fold down in these. Inside of the trunk, another thing I need to do on this car that I did on mine is upgrade these to LED. They take like 2 seconds. But inside of the trunk on this one, you can see I did add the spare tire. She actually just had a loose spare tire I took out of a car in here, but I did get the OEM kit with the bag, and of course, because we have that, she has never had a flat tire in this car. But otherwise, these just come with an inflator kit. Eventually, maybe it would be nice to get the raised trunk, but she doesn't seem too bothered by it. You can see this car doesn't exactly carry that much anyway. Otherwise, decent amount of space. You do have a ski pass, and then your backseat release up there. Which, when my mom was merchandising and using this car as her daily driver, I mean, she would fit displays and stuff in here and have no problem at all. You can see seat folds down. You get pretty good amount of room for what it is, honestly. Like I said, just my favorite angle of this body style. Go ahead and put this back up. I mean, everything about this car is just heavy. The way the doors open and close, the way the seats fold up and down. Nothing feels fragile. When I went from this to a Mercedes, everything about the Mercedes at first felt so fragile in comparison. See this panel. See a little bit more of what I'm talking about happens to these. And I love, too, the waterfall console in these. It was kind of a trademark thing at the time. And up front, this one, like I mentioned, does have halogen headlights. I do need to upgrade the bulbs for her. I think they actually had the lights buffed or redone when she got the tires put on, because they look great. And I don't remember doing them, but Definitely need to upgrade the bulbs, even if it's just new halogens, because I think these are old enough that they've gotten very dim. Under the hood on this car, like I mentioned, this one is a T5, so it has Volvo's 2.5 liter turbo 5-cylinder. And the sticker right there, you can see this engine was rebuilt, 61,000 miles. And it has been great. And like I said, I know this has contributed to the reliability of it, but also these, sometimes you just get good ones that don't burn oil. And if you do have one that consumes, just watch your oil level and these will keep going. I've seen this engine in service loaners and customer cars go 200,000-300,000 miles, no problem. And it's nice too, I keep forgetting the timing belt was changed at the time that was done. Keep thinking this is due for a timing belt and then remembering that. But otherwise, I mean, no issues under here. Spark plugs were done at that time, don't need to replace those. Did get a battery, I believe like 2 years ago, maybe even 3. I think it was during COVID when she wasn't driving a lot. Automatic, of course. It does need a transmission service. I'm probably going to try to take care of that myself. Nothing's wrong with it. I can just tell by the way it shifts that due for a drain and fill. I did one on my S60 and it definitely improved it. And then one other thing is, of course, the dog bone mount, which actually isn't completely gone. It's been replaced once, but that's a typical Volvo wear item. And the car's a little vibrating. You can even tell, but I want to get that knocked out for her soon. Otherwise, this has been such a great car. This engine has so much more character than anything Volvo makes today. I mean, this car is what a Volvo should be. It's what you think of when you think Volvo. It's fun to drive, it's comfortable, it's reliable, and not flashy, but respectable. As you can see under here, like I said, everything's been great. Did replace the air filter as well with a K&N, and I did clean and re-oil it last time I had the car. That was fun. Gave it some turbo whooshy noises. And like I said, I mean, I know this has been a pretty long video, but this has been a very drama-free ownership experience, which is definitely new for my parents. Forgot, too, to show, because the car was off earlier, how beautiful the LED taillights are on this car. But we're happy with this car. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. I think for what it is, too, my mom has taken great care of keeping this car clean. But anyway, guys, any questions, comments, anything like that, drop them down below. And I'll have some more videos of this as well as the other cars in the fleet soon. Thanks for watching, guys.